In 1953, Bowater paper mills set a competition for art students all over the UK to send in artwork that would become their calendar for 1954. 50 years later, and an organisation called Fourth Portal set an open call for artists all around the world to celebrate the versatility of paper. Now, before we go in today's session, which is easy peasy paper making, try saying that, easy peasy paper making, I'd like to share with you, if it's okay, my piece that I sent in for the exhibition. So I'm just going to pop you down, go through the ideas behind the piece and also the process of making it. And then I'm going to show you how to make paper at home. So that's okay, I'll pop you down and we'll get started. So, Fourth Portal, and you can go and visit their website if you want, which is fourthportal.com, to see more about this exhibition. We're also going to put in the comments a blog post that I did, which explains a little bit more about my piece. So the open call that they set was for artists to send in and be sent a piece of paper. So this is the receipt to the piece of paper that I got. So the piece of paper that I did my piece on was called Whatman Deed Loan Imitation Parchment. So Whatman is the name of local paper mills. I believe that they were in Maidstone in Kent. And this parchment paper, although this is imitation, parchment paper was originally used to put the American I can't remember the word, but if you go to the blog post, all the information is there. So that's the piece of paper that I got. Now, the reason that this competition or this open call really sort of spoke to me was because my grandpa was Wolf Superintendent at the Bowater paper mills, firstly in Ebbsfleet during the war, and then during the night up until the late 1960s, he was Wolf Superintendent at Bowater paper mills in Northfleet, which is actually very close to where the Fourth Portal is. So this is my grandpa. He looking very, very stern in his office, but I remember him like this as grandpa. So he had huge hands. You can see here next to my grandma, who was actually quite petite anyway, huge hands, but he would use them to create beautifully delicate sketches. He used to do them in pen and ink and also in pencil. And this is one that he gave me when I was probably about 7. And I used to, you can see it's got lots of folds. I used to fold it up and I'd keep it in my wallet and I'd take it out from time to time. I now have it, well, I will have it framed after today's session, along with the piece that I did. So I wanted to replicate this, this sketch somehow, also with the wording. So I'll read you what the word says. It says, "Dear Rachel, this used to be Grandpa's ship. It's no longer sailing. Grandpa was one of the officers. He joined the ship when she was just new in 1928. Gee, that's a long time ago. Love, Grandpa." And the name of my piece is taken from those last 2 words, love, Grandpa. Now, I didn't want to do, there's lots of things that you can do with paper. And if you go to my blog post, you'll be able to see all of the different pieces that were sent in. There's some amazing work. There's paper sculptures. There are boots, tiny little booties made out of paper. There is there's a game that's been sort of where the paper must have been shredded down with water, pulped up and then made into a game of blocks. There's also a waistcoat where the paper's been made like a Japanese style paper fabric. It's absolutely incredible. So please do go and either have a look at the blog post that I did or also go to Fourth Portal's website. But I wanted to keep it very, very simple and not really to steer away from this sketch that my grandpa did me. So I decided to make a cyanotype print. Now, cyanotype print, also known as a blueprint for obvious reasons, uses chemicals, 2 chemicals, which when mixed together and mixed with water, create a light sensitive substrate for you then to put images on. So negatives, you can use this with leaves, flowers. It's a workshop that I do online every summer in June for Medway Print Festival. So if you'd like, if this really interests you and you'd like to have a go later on in the year, then if you sign up to my mailing list or sign up to Print Club, go to iprintedthat.com and you'll be able to sign up. You'll get notification about it later on in the year. So I did this. So this was just towards the end of last summer. This was August time I did this one, ready for the exhibition. And all I did was I don't know if you can see that. So this is a piece of acetate. And then all I did was just using a Sharpie pen, just a very fine line Sharpie pen, I just traced all of those lines. And it was really lovely because it felt like I was sort of connecting with him. I was connecting with the history of Bowater. And also it was lovely to have that sort of natural element as well, using the sun to create the final print. I could have just scanned this print onto through a computer. I could have then just printed it onto acetate, but I didn't want to lose this lovely lightness of sketch. I was worried that I might lose that. So I did it by hand. I then, once I treated my paper, I put the sketch on top. I left it in the sun for about 10-20 minutes, washed the chemicals out, and where the sun hadn't been able to penetrate through, you can see that it's made a mark. And quite by accident, a lovely happy accident, this sort of sea effect, this ocean effect, these waves have come in to the print as well. So I was really pleased with the piece. It means a lot to me, and I'm going to get them both framed together, maybe even with this one at some point, and put that on my wall. But it's a really nice reminder. And you know, it's just one of the ways that paper can be used. As part of the exhibition, kind of like some little fringe, they did some fringe workshops, and one of them was to make paper. So this is the piece of paper that I made. Peter Piper picked a piece of paper. It's one of those tongue twisters, and it's actually got a watermark. I don't know what I'll do if I just bring you back up. You might just, oh yes, you can just see the watermark there. I've since tried to attempt to make a watermark with my own paper making. It's still in process, but as soon as I find out how I can make a watermark using this sort of paper technique I'm going to show you, I will share it with you. But yeah, you can see, and that's actually taken from the stained glass, one of the stained glass windows where the fourth portal, for the building that the fourth portal lives in. So that's the paper that I made. And now I want to share with you how you can make paper at home using just newspaper, water, an embroidery hoop, and a net curtain or muslin. So I'm going to put you down again. Hopefully not getting too dizzy. I'll put you down again and I will go through that. So the first thing, let me move this paper out of the way. I don't want to rip that one up. First thing you need to do, actually, let me just put all this out of the way. I don't want water and things on those photos. First thing is to just get some newspaper. And you want to tear it up. Let's get the grain. There we go. It's easy to tear the grain. Tear it up like so. And then rip it into tiny pieces. And that is going to go in a bowl of water in here. It then needs to soak. So it needs to soak for sort of 2 hours or leave it overnight, even better. With regards to the amount of paper and the amount of water, it's difficult to give you amounts, but in here I've got 4 pieces of sort of four sheets of newspaper, and I've just put it in a bowl and I covered it and then added a little bit more water. So it doesn't really matter at this stage, but you do need quite a lot of water. You don't want all the paper to soak the water up at this stage. So let's just move that. So once that's been soaked for a couple of hours or overnight, Then you want to make it into pulp. The easiest way to do this is to use a blender. So you can use a handheld blender like I'm going to use, or you can use one of the countertop ones. Now, as I blend, it makes quite a lot of noise, so I'm just going to mute you for a second. Okay, so hopefully you're still with me. And if you've just joined, then today we are making paper using some quite familiar equipment, craft equipment that you may already have. So I've got in this bowl here newspaper that's been torn up and soaked in water for either 2 hours, or better still, leave it overnight. And I've just blitzed it with all the water still in it. I've blitzed it with a blender to make this pulp. Now I need to put the pulp into a container. So I'm just going to use a washing up bowl here, and I might just raise you up a little bit so you can see better. Move you over. There we go. So there's a bowl of water, just cold water. And again, it's difficult to give you measurements, but you'll get a feel for this of how much water to pulp you want. But I filled it probably about a third full, my container. And I'm just going to put some of that pulp into the washing up bowl. So just put a few handfuls in to start with. So I'm going to be putting the paper to cloths. So these are called couching cloths in the sort of the paper making world. I'm just going to be using tea towels because I'm doing this from home, my art tea towels. And that's just going to make sure that water can drain off a little bit more before we can then properly dry it. And at this point we want to take our embroidery hoop and our net curtain. You can also use muslin for this. Or of course, if you've got a paper making mould and decal, then use that by all means. So these will give you round pieces of paper. But what you could use is possibly like a photo frame, which I'll show you in a second. I haven't got the photo frame on me, but I will show you sort of what I mean. You could use the photo frame to make the shape if you're after sort of a rectangular shape, or you can always just cut them to size at the end and use the leftovers, put that back in the pulp, and start all over again. So nothing's wasted. So we want to pull this really tight. There we go. I need more room, don't I, Anna? I'm going to tell you what, hopefully you can see that. Let's move everything onto screen for you. There we go. So I'm going to take my embroidery hoop. Let's just agitate the water so we get all the pulp rising to the top. So you want to put the embroidery hoop in and then slowly bring it up. Oh, and I can see I need to blitz that a little bit further, but we'll just go with it at the moment. And just hold it for a moment while the water drains off. Just move it around slightly. Put it onto our cloth. Find the last place I look, of course. Loosen the screw. Oh, that's got stuck. Hang on. Right, bring it round. I need to dry my hands. That's it. My hands were too wet. Loosen that screw. And remove the outer hoop. Just making sure that's out the way. And then take that off. And we have our paper. So we want to take, if you want to make more paper, then let's take it off of this screen. So just flip it over quickly but smoothly. I'm just going to rub my hands over the back just to make sure it comes off. Just give it a little helping hand. Ooh. Do it more gentle than I. There we go. And then once it starts coming off, that'll come off a lot more easier. There we are. A little tear shows it's handmade. Oh, I've caught that underneath. There we go. So then we can cover that up, and then if you want to, you can go in again. Just layer these up, adding more and more paper. Now leave it just to sort of absorb all the water, or quite a bit of the water for a while, about an hour or so. And then when you're ready, when that's happened, just carefully, each piece will then be a little more sort of resilient. You can just take each piece off and leave it to dry somewhere where the air can circulate all around it. And that will take sort of a day, a couple of days to dry, depending on how thick you've made your paper. Now, I had a little experiment for you if you wanted to do something a little bit more interesting than just plain paper. And just to show you the difference, it looks quite grey. I've really messed this one up now. I'm going to put this one back in. But just showing you, it looks quite grey, but actually when it dries a lot lighter. So I did actually initially think, oh, this is going to be a really kind of nasty grey colour, but it's quite nice. I quite like that. And that's just made with newspaper print. Let me pop this back in there. We can go again. That's the beauty of it. If it does mess up, just put it back in, put the pulp back in and start again. So I, as I say, had a little experiment for you. So I used a textured couch cloth, as you can see here, and it's got this sort of gridded effect in it. So if you wanted to add a bit of texture to your paper, the cloth that you're going to put it onto, if that has a bit of texture, then your paper will have a little bit of texture. You can't really see in this camera, but this one's actually slightly, it's got a green tinge. So I experimented with colouring the paper. I put some food dye food colouring into the water. I actually ended up using a whole bottle of green. Don't ask me why I've ever used green colouring. It's one that I had at the back of the cupboard, so I didn't mind using it all up. I put the whole lot in and you get just a very, very faint tinged kind of green colour. I don't know if you can see that there. So if you did want to give it a slightly different colour, it would be very, very subtle. You can add food dye to the water pulp. I then thought about maybe pressing flowers into it. So I got some dried flowers that I had. It almost looks like sort of a potpourri mix. These were just dried flowers. And all I did with that was, as I did it from sort of step one, where I put the embroidery hoop with the screen in, and as I brought it up, I held it just under the water, and then I sprinkled on these potpourri sort of elements, these dried flower elements, and then left it to dry. Again, exactly the same. And that just gives you something a little bit more interesting. And I've actually got eucalyptus leaves in this, and oh, it smells gorgeous. It's so nice. And I was thinking you could probably use these in your drawers or in your cupboards, sort of to give it a little bit of a nice smell. And also you could use lavender. The lavender and eucalyptus is antiseptic, so it's going to help keep bugs away as well. So that's just a few that I had to go with. That's just a plain piece, just exactly like this one, but I've just left this round. And then this is my attempt at a watermark, as you can see. But as I said, I'm going to have some more experiments with that. And as soon as I find out how to do it, I will, of course, let you know. So what do you think? Do you think that you will be able to give that a go with just some cut up newspaper, water, an embroidery hoop, and a piece of muslin or a net curtain, to be able to just have a go at making some paper? You could use them for greeting cards, in scrapbooks, in your journals, even write a shopping list on them. You know, paper really is so versatile, and that's really what today's session has been about: the versatility of paper, how it can be made, how it can be used. And please do go and have a look at the Fourth Portal's Versatility of Paper exhibition. All the photos are now online because the exhibition has finished, but I hope that you enjoy that, and I will see you on the Virtual Village Hall next time. Take care and see you soon. Bye.